Hello. Hi, Catherine.
Hello, Madeline. One of my
Hello.
favorite Riveter people ever.
Oh, you're my favorite. This makes me so happy. We were just why we're late, everyone, is because we just were talking and we couldn't stop. So we're gonna have to do that after this event. How are you doing today?
I'm really, really good. How is everyone? I'm gonna
Yes.
turn on my chat so I can say hi formally.
Yes. Everyone joining in. Welcome. Wow. Already so many people in. Hi. How are you all?
Hello,
So
everybody.
hello. So today we're going to be talking about the power language of women and the 5 phrases that you should start and stop saying at work. We are here with the wonderful Catherine, who was with us 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah,
On the talk of
wonderful.
how, yes, on how to have a successful interview, the psychology behind it. So today we're going to talk about the power of language. Catherine Wheeler is a change management expert and organization fixer. She spent over a decade coaching top leaders of Fortune 500 companies and nonprofit organizations through significant transformations, including a $19.5 billion acquisition, challenging and equipping them to successfully navigate the terrains of people systems and organizational design for mission-driven impact. Thank you so much, Catherine, for being with us today. Yes, extremely impressive, inspiring. Thank you, Mickey.
I don't know how impressive it is, but I'm super excited to be here. I love doing partnership with the Riveter, and I think it's so appropriate, just to start the session by thanking the Riveter for being so intentional, and there's another word I want to use. I can't think of it right now, but just really intentional on focusing on the issues of our nation right now. I think that all of us as leaders in this group, in this class, can acknowledge that we all have a space in how we make our nation better than how we found it, right? And so I'm excited to be partners, not just with the Riveter, but with each of you. And today will be fun. We're gonna have a good time. I think we all need some lightness around here. So we're going to have a good time. Madeline will tell you, I like for you to participate. I'd like for you to talk in the chat and talk to me. I am going to have to turn it off, though, because I get really distracted and want to talk back. But when we really talked about what do we need, and actually this program was kind of pre-done before the events a few weeks ago. But I think there's still a lot of appropriateness to what we're going to talk about today, as women are being called to the front lines to lead, and how we make our nation better. And my goal for each of you is to really think through how can we be meaningful and how can we be impactful during this time and far beyond. So yes, Sharon, you are muted. See, this is why I'm gonna have to close my chat because I'm gonna be responding to everybody. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop up my presentation, give you guys a quick introduction, and then we're gonna just jump right in. Let's see here. Well, all right, I think everyone can see my screen. Let's see. All right, so as Madeline talked about in the introduction, today we're going to talk about the power language for women at work. And just a really quick introduction, my name is Catherine, of course. I will tell you that my first and favorite job is being CEO of the Wheeler household. I am married to an amazing guy, Justin, down there in the corner, and that is our rambunctious 9-month-old Ella. And so we have so much fun being a family and doing all things. I was one of those moms that really looked up all the rules of being a mom and then decided that I just wanted to live in the moment of all things. And so that gets really interesting around here. But beyond my first job as wife and mom, as Madeline kind of read to you, I have the amazing responsibility of amplifying voices. What is so important to me is that I help people show up the way that they want to show up to capture meaningful moments for them. And so that has looked like a wide range of organizations that I've worked with, as well as businesses that I've started. And so today we're really going to hop into this idea of words. So I am the really strange friend that you have that gets really excited when I see the limit of 160 characters. I see that and I see challenge. because what I'm always thinking about is how do I make words meaningful? How do I make them impactful? But how am I clear and how am I concise? And so one of the things that I always say is that your words may not mean anything to you, but they change everything, and they have the opportunity to change everything. I often hear people say, oh, I just said that, but I didn't really mean anything by it. And I'm like, well, well, you didn't mean anything, the person on the receiving. And for them, it can completely change the dynamic of how they're showing up and being present in that moment. This is also something me and my husband talked a lot about, because I'm always telling him, do not interpret my words. Just hear what I'm saying and believe them, because I very thoughtfully picked them out. And so today, I really want to explore, before we fully jump in, why are you here? You saw the description, you saw the title. Just in the chat, give me a quick view, a quick sort of overview of why you showed up today and what it is that you're wanting to get out of this session. And Madeline is always sweet to me, so she's probably going to read a few of the comments so that I don't have to go back and chat and be super nosy.
Absolutely.
Tell me, ladies, why are you here? What you want to talk about?
Here we go. Okay, to empower myself, wanting to communicate more effectively with team and family and friends, being valued, checking in on my emotional intelligence and social awareness.
So good. So
communication
good.
skills, sales skills.
I love it. Okay, give me a few more, ladies. It's like 92 of us in the room. Let's pull it. What y'all got?
More impactful. Impact is coming up a lot.
Yes.
I want to know what I'm missing. Make sure colleagues really hear the words I'm saying. Finding my voice, communication skills. I want to be aware of what I say. And the future is female, keep ourselves empowered. Finding my voice. I want to be intentional.
I love that. And all of these are so appropriate. Even the words that you guys are using are so appropriate, right, for what we're going to get into. And to be honest, this is kind of how my love of words started, because I remember, I will never forget, one of my, I guess, my shift experiences. I'm sitting in the room. I was on this project. It was a 12-month project. And one of our senior leaders, she was a female. She didn't talk a lot. And people weren't scared of her, but they were very reverent of her and the words that she spoke. And she didn't speak a lot. Not that she wasn't a talker, because she was as chatty as I am, especially like after a glass of red wine. We were both very chatty. But I was so intrigued by the amount of respect that she got, really so intrigued by the way that people soaked up her words. Like, have you ever been in a room when someone is talking and everyone is just like on every word, and and you're like looking around and it's like, okay, it's not just me too. I'm like, I want people to listen to me like that, right? Especially at work. And so I remember watching her. She didn't talk a lot. And she would almost preserve the moments that she spoke. And I asked her about it. I said, hey, MB was what we called her. I said, I noticed that you didn't have a lot to say in the meeting, but a lot was happening. A lot of people were chatting, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things she told me, she said, I don't use a whole lot of words, because when I say the words that I choose to use, I want people to listen. If we use a whole lot of words, then people really become desensitized to what we have to say. And so that's really a method that I started to use, is one, using less words. And so I call those my gavel moments, kind of like a judge has a gavel. I don't have to always use the gavel. I get to preserve it for the moments that I really need people to come forth and pay attention. But then when I have their attention, what can I say that is meaningful, that is impactful, that is clear, that is not misinterpreted? How can I show up in those moments to fully capture the attention of my audience? So we're going to talk just about those things. And I'm even going to share some common phrases with you that I want you to rethink, okay? So let's start with the definition of power. Because honestly, for a lot of women, if I tell you that I want you to take back your power with words, it makes you feel some kind of way. So really quickly in the chat, I'm telling you, hey friend, I want you to take back your power with these words. I want you to be a powerful woman. How does that feel to be able to say, I am powerful? Like, what does that feel like to you? Is it uncomfortable? Is it uneasy? Is it exhilarating? What does it truly feel like when someone acknowledges, like, hey, I want you to be powerful? I gotta be honest, like even for me, sometimes it's a little bit uncomfortable to say like, I want to be powerful.
Mm.
I want to be powerful. What do you see in
You
Madeline?
see valued, uncomfortable. It is a
Mhm.
responsibility. It feels good, exciting, but also nerve-wracking,
Yeah.
empowering, uneasy, validating. We
Yes.
have recognized,
Yeah.
liberating.
Yeah. And all of these words, like the truth is, I think I go through a spectrum of every single word each of you have named, probably within like 60 seconds of even saying to myself, like, I want to be powerful. And the reason is because people have made power feel really nasty and dirty and bad in some senses. And part of that is because we know people with power who've not used it well. And I think as women, we naturally kind of take on that effect of like, I don't want people to feel that way about me. So I want you to, one, let's think differently about what power means. Power at its core is the ability to influence the behavior of others or the course of events. That's it, right? Power is literally, I like to call power is the arranger, right? And the rearranger. Power is our ability to see and to be strategic, which we as women already naturally do hella well, if I might say so myself, right? And so, really using the word power is just taking back ownership of that responsibility, of even the uncomfortableness of it, or even the ability to be both excited and exhilarated by it, okay? So the first word, and this one is for free, not even of the 10 that we're going to talk about, is power. We're going to put that word back in our vocabulary, okay? You know, if someone asks you, why are you good at what you do? I am powerful at being able to do this, right? I am powerful in being able to do that. It's a really cool game changer that even with humility brings a level of responsibility and ownership to the role that you play. Now, let's first dive into words that take our power, okay? The first one is very common. It won't be a shock to you at all. It's these series of words. I feel, I think, I hope. And specifically, I want to reframe this. Again, we're talking about at work, right? We're talking about in workspaces where at times women are undervalued. One thing to know about me is that I have traditionally worked for significantly male organizations, including the ones that I consult with. I don't know what's up with that. Maybe that's why I love the Riveter so much, but traditionally I'm in a group setting with mostly men. And one of the things that I learned is utilizing words like this really undermine the value of whatever I put after it, right? And so saying something like, you know, I really feel this is the right course of action. Feeling is an emotion. It is not a validated course of action, right? It may be our gut thing that we hold on to, but it's not an absolute for a lot of people that sit around the table with us. And so using words like I feel, I think, I hope really translate to I'm not sure, but here's how it can go, right? And if you're ever unfortunate enough to work with me on a team, just kidding. I think I'm pretty dope as a team member. One of the things I tell my team all the time is hope is not a plan, right? And so really utilizing these words undermines the absolute substance of the value that you bring after that, okay? The second is our other all-time favorite, I'm sorry, and fill in the blank. Like, I'm sorry I was late to this meeting. I'm sorry I'm just getting back to your email. I'm sorry we couldn't connect. So here's my beef with I'm sorry, ladies. I'm sorry is usually a phrase to express regret, deep regret, right? And to really remedy a situation. We've gotten so used to using the words I'm sorry that they're not even used only in that context anymore. They're kind of used for filler words. Like, think about it. How many times have you been walking down the hall in your office building and you just randomly say, I'm sorry, like for no reason? Like, you just randomly like say, oh, I'm sorry. Weird, right? I have done it too. We are just conditioned to say like I'm sorry for what. So when my teammates and my team members, when they start something with I'm sorry, I'm like, what are you sorry for? They're like, huh? You know, for what? Like, and I challenge them because I'm like, should you really have said I'm sorry, or were you really trying to say something else? Here's the thing. I want you to rethink how you use I'm sorry. For example, if you're typing an email to someone and you're like, hey, I'm so sorry that I just got back with you, blah, blah, blah. I want you to really think about that. Are you really sorry you just got back with them? Are you sorry they had to wait? Because in all honesty, you would have gotten back with them sooner if you felt it was a priority, right? Or if you were able to prioritize. There was something else of importance that you dedicated your time and attention to that made this message a little bit less important. And that's okay, right? That's absolutely okay. You're not doing the other person a favor by saying, I'm sorry. So let's just all acknowledge that right now, right? You're not doing anyone else a favor by saying, I'm sorry, because honestly, it's so common, they didn't even hear it anyway, right? And so one of the things that I have practiced doing, especially when emailing, I don't say like, hey, I'm sorry, this message took too long, because I'm not sorry, because I had other stuff to do, right? I dive straight into the message. Like if I want to do any sort of precursor, I may say something to the effect of, your message was important, and I also had several other things that I wanted to focus on. So here's the response you've been waiting for, right? But I'm not sorry, because everything that I've done within the time frame that I've done it has been very intentional and very thoughtful, right? Sometimes I'm sorry really denotes a level of lack of thoughtfulness on our part, right? That's why people often make mistakes when they say, or when they say I'm sorry, it's as a result of a mistake, right? But if you're saying I'm sorry when you intentionally did something, then perhaps that's not the correct word to use. This is my all-time favorite word to abolish, right? The but word. This word is a word often used when we're attempting to convey a transition of thoughts. Like, Madeline, your presentation was really good, but here's what I think could have been better, right? I like to call but the ultimate power taker, okay? Because from an emotional intelligence standpoint, when someone else on the other side hears but, and you guys have heard this before, they've erased everything that you've said before, right? But also from a communication standpoint, when I hear someone say the word but, what I believe is that they have not thought thoroughly enough about the fullness of their statement to me, right? And they're stringing it along as they go. For me, but is a true sense of a lack of thoughtfulness. And so one of the opportunities that I think we have with but is to replace it with the word and or to just stop the sentence, right? So here's what that could sound like instead. Instead of me saying, Madeline, your presentation was really good, but here's where I think we should go the next time. What I might say is, Madeline, your presentation was really, really good, period, right? Here's our next area of focus. I know it sounds so simple and you're kind of probably like, Catherine, what's the big deal? It changes everything. Madeline is still tuned in. She's still listening to what I'm saying. She's still able to absorb what I'm saying. And that second sentence, that may be an area of redirection, she's a part of that. We are still collaboratively, mentally in the same space. If I use but, she is now defensive. She is now waiting for what I'm going to say with anxiety and anticipation that there's really no room for it in the conversation. As each of you think about how you're becoming change agents in this season, this is a dynamic tool to load up your toolbox with, okay? It's not but, it's and, right? And so even being thoughtful of, I like that approach, and here's where I'd like for us to start, right? And so really being able to help people maneuver through an idea and keep them with you while you're maneuvering. Are we all so good? Let me know in the chat if you're still with me, if you're still good. Okay, I see some people buzzing in.
Yeah, no, this is great. Everyone's saying great.
Okay.
But it's such a subtle word. Didn't know its power. So
Listen, but changes the game, okay? No pun intended, by the way. Now, all right, let's move forward to this next one. I've got to be really honest. This is one I'm very guilty of. You might even hear me say it today because I'm still human and working this out. Trying to acknowledge a thought by saying, I'm not sure if this makes sense, or does this make sense to you, or are you following? Am I clear? Catherine, what do you mean? I'm just checking my audience. I'm just trying to see how people feel, right? You're attempting to see how people feel. But what they might hear is, oh, this person may not be a really clear communicator, and so I need to really focus in because there may be something unclear. Or what they really might hear is, oh, maybe I actually missed something, and so I do need to clue in a little bit more if they're constantly checking to see how I'm doing with the message. Now, in the context of a class like today, I will say this several times because I really do want to make sure I'm not moving faster than I need to with the content. But in the context of workspace, a meeting, etc., sis, say what you got to say in the end, right? Oftentimes we say this because we're not comfortable with what we've said to our audience and we're creating a filler. We're trying to create some comfortable space for the people. This is often coming after making a suggestion or recommending a complex solution. It is okay for your complexity and for your solution and for the thing that was uncomfortable. It's okay for it to linger. I am a fan of lingering, especially in this crazy season. Y'all, I've been throwing all kind of stuff out there and just letting it sit, right? So be comfortable letting your message sit. Here's the other trick to this. If you let your message sit without you attempting to take up word space, then you allow them to get the clarity they need without you having to overcompensate by asking if they were clear, right? Because sometimes people will rush to respond to your, does this make sense? And have you ever been in a meeting and you say, well, does this make sense to you? And somebody's like, well, and you know they haven't even soaked in what you said. So usually how I like to go through this, and you probably have even noticed it during some of the presentation, is I will say a thing and I'll just stop. And I'll give you a chance to kind of take in the last moments of my speech or whatever I've just said. Ladies, you can do this too. Don't feel the need to fill silent space. In fact, I'm going to tell you a secret that I've leaned on in my career, a secret that I learned from MB. Silence is where the pass of the ball happens. You say what you got to say. It's like a visual, probably mental mic drop, and you just sit there and you let people revel in it. Significantly one of the most powerful things I've ever done and continue to do as a leader. I say what I have to say, and I pause, and I look, and I say nothing because I am not uncomfortable in my space. I am not uncomfortable when I'm owning the words and I'm owning my own power. You let other people uncomfortable, you don't have to be. And if you were unclear, someone will say, well, hey, can you explain this to me again? And absolutely, I will, right? And so again, let the silent space do its work. All right, I think everybody's so good. We're gonna keep moving, steam ahead here. Number 5, this is my most dreaded. I get on my team all the time about this, especially the females on my team. I will acknowledge them for something that they've done that's been super dope, super amazing. And they're like, oh, Kevin, it's not a big deal. Like, that was easy. Or it took like 2 seconds to do that. And I'm like, and still, it was amazing and it was dope and it was bomb. And I appreciate you for doing it. Who can attest to kind of being one of these people that's like, it's not a big deal. Like, yeah, I mean, that's fine. I always do it. And right. Show me by the raise of your hands who can kind of attest to it, right? Because our magic is just like, it's second nature to us. Exactly. Yep.
Yep.
I see all the hand raises. Yep.
Yep.
And climbing, right?
Yep.
Our magic isn't magical to us, which is such a tragedy, to be honest. Because I'm even like, as I'm interacting with you guys in the chat, I'm like, you guys are so dope. There's so many of you who I know are the leaders. You are rocking it out at work. You are rocking it out at home. And you be showing up like on E and still do your best and still give it your all. And people never know that you were on E, right? That is the magic of women. It just is. And if I got any men on here, we love you too. But I just got to give it up. Like, this is the magic of women. This is what we do, what we've always done. But we don't know how to acknowledge it. And we don't even know how to accept when people give us compliments. Here's one thing that you've really got to know about the workforce and about even the future of the workforce. You've got to learn to take compliments. You've got to. Because your inability to accept and to own your power and your confidence and the compliments that people give you, it doesn't free up the people you lead to do the same. It doesn't. That was one of my biggest leadership lessons. and learning that if I don't take compliments well, if I don't acknowledge my work well, then they never will. And if they never will, then they'll never fully step into the ownership and the powerfulness of their skills and their talents. And so literally what I'm saying to you is your inability to take a good compliment is really prohibiting your team and the people around you. Okay. And so instead of saying, oh, it was no big deal, one, thank you is sufficient. But one of the things I'm really trying to incorporate by saying is like, I appreciate that you're valuing my contributions to the team. I appreciate that. Right. I appreciate that you're seeing me in this moment. I appreciate that you fully recognize how I showed up and how I did the darn thing. Just try it. Just try it. I know it's going to be super uncomfortable, but I want you to try to tell someone beyond thank you. I appreciate the way that you value my contributions. I appreciate how you saw my skills at work. Two things it does is, one, it will help them affirm you more because they'll recognize, oh, this isn't a passive random thank you. But two, it's going to significantly help you do two things. Help you, one, know what people think that you're good at because you're going to be more intentional in listening for how to thank them specifically. And then two, it's going to give you language that's going to empower even the people around you to accept compliments from you and from others, right? This is our responsibility as leaders. And when I say leaders, I'm not talking about people that just lead teams, but as leaders and people who lead in our homes, in our churches, and in social spaces like this is powerful. We have got to equip others to own their own magic by first owning ours. So you will never say, promise me, oh, it was no big deal. Let's just get that out of the way right now. It was totally a big deal. You rock that shit, own it, okay? Okay. All right. Now, let's talk about words that give us power. So those were words that take away power, words that give us power. Remember when I gave you the definition of power at first, right? It's the ability to influence, it's the ability to change the course of events, okay? So with that in mind, our first word is no. I believe, and I'm not sure if Webster's would agree, that no is a complete sentence. For me, the power in no is that I say it softly, I say it resolutely, and I add nothing behind it. No. Or no. Whatever that looks like, I am so good with no, right? One of the things that we as women have the tendency to do is we say no, and then we give an excuse of why we're giving the no, as if no is a bad word. Secret, no is not a bad word. It is a powerful and intentional word that takes up space, and you get to use it when you want to. No is sufficient, and it doesn't need anything else to come behind it. So I want you to try it and just say no. And if you're like me and a little bit weird and awkward when it comes to using these kinds of words, practice it. Seriously, practice what your no sounds like. I honestly practice my no. I know it's strange, but I do. I practice it do I want it to be soft? Do I want it to because I don't want it to be too brass. I don't want it to be too crass. How do I want it to feel to other people? So I practice it because I'm going to use it. They're going to get this no one way or another, but I do want to practice what it feels like because I don't want to be rude, because people do have this negative, nasty connotation with no. But we're going to use no, and we're going to practice how it sounds so that it fits what we need. Can we commit to using no? If you can commit to using no as a complete sentence, let me see you raise your hand for me again. Yep. I got 15 people, that's good. All right, we got 25 people, that's good. All right, we're working our way up because it's 100 of y'all. I need at least 40 people to commit to a no, because we got to take back our mental health. We got to take back our emotional health, and this is a part of, all right, we got our 40, good.
Catherine, one question that just popped up on this, would no thank you, does the thank you part detract from just the no?
So it depends. Are you really thankful? I think one of the things that being intentional about our words does is it causes us to check in with our real feelings and emotions about a thing. So to that point, I might say, like if someone offers me an opportunity to do something that I'm like, oh, that is really dope, but I just don't want to do it, I might say, no, that's a really incredible experience. I'm not interested, but I really want to thank you for thinking of me. That is fair, right? But I'm not making an excuse for why I'm not doing it. I'm not giving any more revelation for why I'm not doing it, because I think the issue comes in when we attempt to justify the no. I'm not justifying my no. And so to your point, it's totally okay to add something behind the no, but I don't want you to justify or make an excuse for your no, because then that takes the power that you gave yourself away when you say the no. Is that fair? Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right, let's go to the second one. Expertise. Be honest with me. How many of you guys have used the word expertise pertaining to yourself within the last 3 days? Okay, not as many. Okay, we're getting a few people.
Getting a lot of no's and
Yeah.
a lot of raised hands. On my resume.
Yep, that's fair. So let's think about this. Let me ask you this question. Do you consider yourself an expert at something? Do you consider yourself an expert? Give me a yes or a no in the chat.
A lot of yeses coming in.
Yeah.
Yep. A lot of yeses. Yep.
Yep. Yep. So here's the oxymoron in that, right? I consider myself an expert, yet I never say I have expertise. Ladies, this is a huge opportunity for us, right? Especially in the workspace. The truth is, I think any one of you would be excited or appreciative if someone introduced you without your prompting, saying, I'm using Madeline because she's my friend and she's here. So if without my prompting, I were to say, you know, Madeline is an expert organizer. She kills the game at putting these sessions together, getting information in a timely way, but even more importantly, creating and curating experiences that are meaningful for people, right?
Thank you.
You're welcome, and that's a true compliment, right? But I'm sure she would feel comfortable with me using the word expert. But the question is, would she feel comfortable using the word expert in the same way that I did? And the answer maybe not, right? Yeah. Here's what I want to give you guys permission to do today. I want to give you permission to say, I'd love to share my expertise on that topic. Or I'd like to share my expertise on that topic. I have expertise on that topic. I'd like to add a comment here, right? Is it obnoxious? No. It will feel weird to you because you're not accustomed to doing it. But all you're saying is, this is a space in which I can speak fluently and valid in my thoughts, in my feelings, that I'm not going to say thoughts and feelings to because I don't need to, because they're valid, so they're no longer thoughts and feelings, right? They're actually factual because I'm an expert. You see what we just did there, right? And so it really takes those I think I feel things to know I'm the expert here. I use this all the time with my baby. When people attempt to tell me why she's crying or why she's doing the thing, actually, I am the expert at Ella. I am the one who literally has the child. I watch her every single day of my life. I know exactly what she needs. Not I think she needs, I think, and even I find myself sometimes using those words, but those words aren't true. Instead of I think and I feel, the truth is I know, because I am the expert. So I free each and every one of you up to use my expertise is in this space. I'd love to add a comment here. Number 3, we're almost done. Hang in there. Number 3 is I would like to be. How many of you can truly say you have used this phrase and accompanied it with something that was meaningful to you? So for example, I would like to be considered for that role. Or for example, I would like to be assigned to that project. This is my area of expertise. I feel very comfortable leading the team here. How many of you guys have used that? Okay, so not a lot.
Let's see.
Okay, we're raising a little
Chat
bit.
sometimes. We're getting sometimes, yeah, we're getting more raised hands.
Yep. Okay, so we got about 19, 20 raised hands out of about 100 amazing and dynamic women. So here's what I want to encourage you to do. Use I would like to be, right? This is seemingly not a very powerful phrase, right? But what this phrase does is it makes space for you to show up how you want to show up and where you want to show up, right? Because usually what comes after I would like to be is a desire of your heart, right? Or is something that you're passionate about, something that it means something to you. And we have a tendency to use this well with each other and in community, but not with people who we feel or who we think are superior to us, right? Here's the truth. Titles do not make people superior to you. Even a person's expertise in a different way does not make a person superior to you. So as you continue to navigate your career, even your life, I want to challenge you to say, I would like to, and whatever that thing is. I got to tell you guys a really funny story. So I love West Elm. I do not love West Elm prices. I just do not, right? But I love West Elm, and a lot of things in my home are from West Elm. When my husband and I first moved into our home, there was a really cool, super dope TV console. I saw it and like went crazy. My husband saw it and like, you're going crazy. You're not getting that. It is too expensive. It was very expensive. Like I looked at it and was like, who is paying for that? Like probably somebody who makes way more money than me. I don't know. But I remember I told my husband, I said, I'm going to call and negotiate with them. He was like, Catherine, that's not how this works. Here's the price. I was like, no, I negotiate everything. Also a tip, negotiate everything. Everything is negotiable. People got stuff to sell. They want to sell it, negotiate. But I called West Elm. I literally said to them, I really like this table. I don't want to pay for it at the price. I would really like to pay this for this table, right? And my husband's looking at me like, you're nuts, right? I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? I put my desires out there. What is the absolute worst that can happen? No lie. 30 minutes later, I got like $500 out of this table, like tax and all that kind of stuff included. They took off shipping, y'all, which was $200. I'm like, why? The West Elm is right down the street. Like they took off the shipping. They took off the price for like the white glove service to put it all together. All these different things. One, am I bragging on my negotiation skills? Probably a little bit. But for me, the thing that changed, the phrase that changed the course of the events with my purchase was I would like to. It is a powerful statement to let people know exactly where you are. Don't be afraid of it. All right, you ready? This is like one of our final two. Number 4, walk me through your thought process. Catherine, what is so powerful about walk me through your thought process? Like, what's the big deal? Here's what's the big deal. Oftentimes in a workspace, especially, even socially sometimes, we're challenged, right? Like sometimes your thoughts and your expertise, they don't feel enough to the people across from the table from you, right? And they attempt to challenge you, they attempt to ask you more questions, or maybe they'll throw out something that maybe blindsides you a little bit, or you're thinking, that makes no sense. You have no clue what you're talking about. But you try to do the PC thing, and you're like, okay, well, I see where you're going there, but I'm not that person, right? I'm like, okay, you're gonna throw out something ridiculous to me. I need to re-own this space because you're attempting to remove the factual or the validity or whatever it is from what I've just said. And I know what I just said was meaningful. And so one of the very simple things I've done and I've learned to do in my career, I like to call this the power exchange, is to say, okay, walk me through your thought process. And I hush and I listen, right? Often this can be used in very challenging situations, and it doesn't make you aggressive to use it, right? Because that's what people like to say when you challenge them, right? It doesn't make you obnoxious. It doesn't make you angry. It doesn't make you even unsure of what you've said before. you are simply making space for others. And one of the really important things that you've got to understand about power is that's what power does. Power makes space for others. And that's why it's not nasty and it's not dirty as we've come to learn it to be, right? Because true and powerful, amazing leaders make space for other people. And so walk me through your thought process is a way to both challenge others, but it's also a way to make space for them. I use this with my team 99% of the time. I literally had a call this morning, and my team member, she was giving me kind of like, she had compiled all her things because they know how I roll. I'm like, what is the data behind it? And she's like, here's what I'd like to do. And she says, hey, I know what you're going to ask me to do. I'm like, exactly. Walk me through your thought process. The truth is 99.9% of the time, I agree. But I want to make space for them to learn, because then good learners become good leaders. And even in challenging spaces, I want to make space to fully understand what is the issue on the other side of the table, so that when I address it again, or when I address it for that person, I don't waste my words. I spend my words specifically on the issues that have been brought as a concern to me. Oftentimes, we as women, we attempt to kind of go back and re-explain the whole thing. You don't need to do that. All you need to do is address the concerns that have been brought forward to you, and you only know that when you're able to walk through someone else's thought process. All right, ladies. Last but certainly not least, and then we're going to make some time to chat. I would like to share ways you can support me. This is a really powerful phrase that we do not use enough. And I am learning, even in this season, how to use this better, right? One of the things that we tend to do is shoulder the responsibility and the ownership of the idea and the execution and the follow-up after the follow-up. It is okay for us just to own one or two pieces of that, and then to ask for help. Right? One of the things someone told me recently, when I was kind of consulting with them, they mentioned, I really do want help. Because I'm like, do you really want help? And we had to really unpack that, right? And I had to walk me through your thought process on this. Like, do you really want help? And the more we unpacked, they came to the realization, I actually do think I want help. I just don't know how to ask for help. Because I feel if I ask for help, then it makes me seem less competent. If I ask for help, it makes it seem like, someone else is going to do this part of the project and it's going to take the ownership for my idea. All things that are valid in the space of being a working woman. We know how this goes. If we ask for help and someone else helps us, then maybe their part gets acknowledged, but not mine. And I did all the work, right? Those are real concerns and real fears that we have. But here's what I want to suggest to you. You are powerful enough to make space for others in a way that they will honor the way that you've made space for them eventually. Okay? So never get so caught up in the fact that I will lose ownership or I will lose recognition in this moment. Because here's the flip side of that. If you don't ask for help, you continue to get burnt out. You continue to get things on your plate that, quite frankly, affect your mental and your emotional well-being. Then you're still no good to continue to produce and to contribute in a meaningful way. So ladies, I want to challenge you to say, here are some ways you can support me, right? And notice, I didn't ask for those ways. I'm not telling you to ask for those ways. I'm not telling you to say, like, hey, can you do this? It's not a matter of can. What we've got to learn to do is put our request forth and give other people permission to tell us their no, or give other people permission to tell us, I can't. But you take their power and yours away when you give them this kind of gray, like, can you? Do you think you can? Are you sure you can? I don't do all that. Here's what I need. And then I make space by shutting my mouth after sharing my need and allowing them to move forward in how they want to move forward and sharing what they want to share with me. Let me ask you, how many of you think that this is something that you need to say more often? And then how hard do you think it's going to be to start to say it, right?
Getting a lot of raised hands.
Yeah, and I'm raising mine too.
Yeah, mine too.
this is a very difficult one for us as women because we just do the darn thing and keep it moving. But I think if you're anything like me, COVID has taught you, the pandemic of police aggression against the African American community has personally taught me. All these things are teaching me that my mental health cannot sustain not asking for help. Being a mom of an amazing but rambunctious 9-month-old has taught me. Trying to be a good wife has taught me. Being a good leader has taught me. And I think each of you can do your own. This has taught me and this has taught me. I know you're already thinking of all of the experiences, the lived experiences that you've had that have taught you that you do need help. So make space for others to help you. All right. Now, we've talked about a lot of different things, right? We've talked about a lot of different phrases that, some are like, hey, let's stop saying that. Some are like, hey, let's start saying that. I want to get a temperature check, honestly. Like, did you hear any phrases that you're like, yep, I need to use? And then the second piece of that is, how are you really feeling? And we can do ones and twos. Like ones, like, I'm not sure I can do some of these. Twos, like, let's get it. Like, you're right. Like, some of these phrases, I need to start saying, like, as soon as we get this call. I need to call someone. I need to retract that email. Tell me your honest truth. Like, one, like, I'm not sure I can really jump into this. I got to really kind of like figure this out. Maybe sit with it a little bit longer. And two is like, let's do it. Like, let's get it done.
Getting a lot of twos here. People saying, it's time, let's do it.
It's time. I love that.
Yeah. Yep. A lot of twos. Some in betweens, but mostly twos. I'm ready to start using my no.
Yep. And in betweens are good too. And listen, I gave you like 5 starts and 5 stops. If you can just commit to one or the other, if you can just commit to like one thing that we want to stop saying, and maybe tell me that. What is the one thing you want to stop saying? What is the one thing you're like, I'm done with that, right?
Let's see. But, sorry, but I feel, I'm sorry, but.
So good.
Yeah, a lot of buts and I'm sorries.
Yeah, and those are actually the hardest ones to stop saying. Yeah. So be encouraged. You may make some mistakes, but keep trying at it. What is the one thing we think moving forward we really want to start saying? What is the one way we want to start making space? And even if you don't remember the whole phrase, just like paraphrase. What is the one way we want to make space for ourselves?
Ways to support me, owning my magic, expertise. I would like to be, I have expertise in, I love to share my expertise. You can support me. All 5 expertise.
Yeah, so that expertise one really stood out. Good.
And ways you can support me, being more open.
And ironically, those are the 2 things that we as women, we just struggle the most with. Because that expertise really is like the ability to own our own magic and to say like, here's how I show up extraordinarily well.
Yep.
And then that support is saying, oh, by the way, I am Superwoman and I still need help. Okay.
Exactly.
Because one of the things I don't think like we recognize enough that being super powerful doesn't mean that we're independently powerful, right? Like I'm like Marvel, Captain Marvel out here. Like I want a whole team. Like this doesn't get done with just me. In fact, the more people I have as a part of my vision and things that I want to do, the more powerful I become to do good, right? And so as we think about where we are in this nation and how we move forward, think about what ways can you galvanize your power, your circle of influence to do good, like changing the way people even recognize and experience power. So as we wrap up, I want to invite you to connect with me. I think we're going to open up for questions, but Madeline knows I am super like connectable. I know that I get a lot of message in my Riveter inbox, the little chat feature in the app. So if you don't have the app, download the Riveter app, super easy to use. Chat me, I do respond. No lie, I literally had somebody, I gave somebody my phone number and they were like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's fine, girl. It's like, I'll change it, like if you get weird. And I have this thing, if you go watch my last video, I talk about my experience with McDonald's. They literally pulled up to McDonald's, y'all. So funny. I'm gonna show it to you because I want you to believe me. They pulled up to McDonald's today and said like, hey, I saw this today and I thought about you. It's the McDonald's, the ice cream machine sign
Oh,
isn't working.
yeah.
You got to watch the last video
You
for
have to watch
context if you have that
it.
one. But I am super responsive. If you want more career resources, I am huge into resume templates. That's so important to me because I think that's the first introduction we make to people. Words are powerful there. The templates include template for the resume. It also includes a cover letter template and some other resources. So you can download all that stuff on the online career store. But today I actually made a code for you guys, Madeline. What was it? I made a
Oh,
$5
yes.
off gift card code for everyone on this call to actually be able to use. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to answer a few questions and then give you guys the information for the code in the chat. Is that good?
That is perfect. And I will be sure actually before, keep the screen, or actually it's okay. I'm going to post your information on the event posting for everyone. So if you weren't able to gather contact information, I'll do that as well as the discount code. So just look back at the event page and it'll all be there.
You need me to put that back up, Madeline, or we're good?
We're fine. I'll post it later. If you guys missed it, just check back on the event page.
Okay. And I'll try to type it in the chat too. But I want to make space for questions if anyone has any.
Yes, we got lots of questions here. So the first one is from Colleen. Colleen was saying, if you don't say I feel or I think, how do you quantify that? What you're saying is your perspective. Maybe I see this as a solution. Is that a good example?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that you can think about is where your response may have come from, right? And so a lot of times our I think I feels really come from the fact that we've had previous success in a space, right? So one of the things that you can really say is, in my previous experiences, what has worked is, right? And so it takes out, again, I feel, and really adds even more validity to what you're saying. Or what you can say is, in my research, really thinking through this strategically, one of the solutions I propose is, right? And so again, really adding some teeth behind your proposal so that it's not just this pie in the sky thought that you had, and perhaps it is, they don't need to know that, right? But really making sure that you're validated and you're heard, because what people tend to do in workspaces is that they overlook the women with the I feel, I thinks, right? In fact, I've even heard some people go so far as to be rude and say, well, feelings aren't on the table. Right? And it really kind of diminishes the power of whatever recommendation that you were giving. So really on the front end, qualifying that with why it is what it is can be really meaningful and helpful.
Thank you so much. I also just want to add, we're getting so many thank yous, and Christopher just said you're my daily hero, which is, I'm going to plus that. Nikki was wondering, what do you say when someone says, why not, after your complete sentence, no?
Because I don't want to. I'm just kidding. Well, here's the thing. People will always challenge, why not? And I think this depends on relationship. I think this depends on a lot of things. So I want to be very careful in how I give this response, okay? Because my way is not always the best way to do this, because I am so direct and specific and cognizant of my space and time in a way that if I decide that I don't want to do something, it could be just, that's just not where I am right now, or that's not a priority to me right now. I really do appreciate you thinking of me, but that's not something that's really contributing to where I'm trying to go next. I think you can, but here's what I say. I think you can give a fair reason for why not, but I don't want you to ever feel like you need to give an excuse to why a no. Right? Because what happens, and I've seen it in some of my team, there have been, because I let them practice these tools that we talk about, right? And then the more a person challenges their why not, the more I see them begin to concede. And then the no now becomes, well, I'll just do this. No, you said no. No is the answer. And so if you feel comfortable in that exchange, then go for it. But just be cognizant that their why not is really to come back and qualify why, right? And so what you might be able to say is, no. And they say, well, why not? So to be honest, I'm really not sure that matters, because it really won't change the course of my response. But I appreciate you for wanting to dig deeper. But I also appreciate you for respecting my no. And that's where we're at,
Yeah. Thank you. And to Patricia's question here, I just thought at the end, if it's saying no to your manager, like you just stated, obviously, if there's certain, looking at the relationship, the person you're speaking to, but not apologizing for your no.
That's right. And that's really the core. And I want to make sure that message is clear. The core is that you do not apologize for your no and that you're not making excuses for your no, right? We want to be respectful. So I'm like, practice your no so that it doesn't sound mean and rude and uncouth, right? But again, respecting that you get a choice because they're asking, right? And remember that asking is about giving people choices. And so you are not automatically indebted to respond the way that you feel they want you to respond.
Thank you. Sarah's question here is, how do these language recommendations differ in their application / relevance when communicating with other women X within the same power level, rather than communicating with men and or across power levels?
Yeah, I really don't think that it changes much, right? I don't think it changes. I think, again, one of the things that I always take away on my conversations is, you know how people used to say, we put on our pants the same way? Like, I put on my dress the same way you did. I put on my lipstick the same way you did. Like, for me, it really doesn't change. And this, for me, is less, these verbiage recommendations are less about asserting power and more about owning power, right? Power that you already have, right? Asserting assumes there's a situation that needs to assert. This is truly just about making space for yourself and making room for yourself to be fully who you are. Because if you really kind of go back to look at these recommendations, all of these things are just diminishing. All of these things are diminishing. All of these words, they diminish where you are and how you get to show up. I'm just offering that we're not diminished and that we're able to show up fully in the spaces that we get to own, and that we own the way that we show up, right? So it's kind of a both and there. So I hope that makes sense. And if it doesn't, I'm totally good to re-navigate that.
Thank you, Catherine. Last question here. I've stopped saying I'm sorry and instead use I apologize. If there was a miscommunication, tech issue, etc. Does that take away my power? If so, what can I say instead?
No, remember, I'm sorry, the intent of, how like Webster's tells us that if we have true regret, we should use it, right? And so if there truly was a mistake that you need to remedy, I apologize. It's completely, in fact, I think that's one of the most powerful things you can say as a leader. Owning our mistakes is power. Owning our mistakes and say, I apologize, I misstepped, or I said something that wasn't appropriate, or we had technical issues as a result of me not doing my due diligence. All of those things are fair. What I want us to be careful of, however, is when we interchange, I'm sorry and I apologize for feeling dead space, right? So like, oh, I'm so sorry this happened. Wait, that wasn't even your fault, right? Or, one of the things me and my husband, we laugh about all the time is like, if he has a negative experience, I tend to attempt to empathize, right? And so I used to just say, I'm sorry. And he would always say back to me, well, you didn't do it, so why are you sorry? And so it made me more cognizant. I'm like, you're right, I didn't do it. So then I started to say that, like, I'm sorry that that's your experience and that's how you felt, because that is what I'm sorry for. I'm not sorry because I did anything, but I'm qualifying to say, you know what, I'm sorry that was your experience. And so again, my challenge to you is to really be cognizant of how you take up space in that. How do you own these moments where you really didn't do anything, and even not even assuming that they felt bad about a thing, right? Like I hear someone saying, they've spun it to be positive, to say like, thanks for your patience as I get back to you. And that's totally fine too, right? Like if you want to acknowledge they've been patient, absolutely, right? And so really this is all about, it kind of goes back to some professional branding stuff that I've talked to the Riveter team about before. Like, how do you want to show up and what do you want that to look like? Me as a leader and me as a woman in this space and me kind of in this mode of like full 2020, I'm just apologizing a lot less for things that are not my fault. And I'm also taking up full space to say that, even if you waited on me, I was worth the wait, right? And so now I'm here, now I'm showing up, and I'm going to give you double for your trouble for waiting, right? And so there are all these different ways that we can think about this, and no way is wrong. If you feel powerful and if you feel that you're owning your space, it's right. It's the right way.
Thank you so much, Catherine. as someone said in the chat, this is something to take away for all aspects of your life, not just in the professional field, but just to
Yeah,
really take ownership of your words and be more mindful. And I love that you've been talking about, power comes from providing space for others as well.
absolutely.
So thank you so much for this. This has been so extremely helpful.
You're
I can speak on behalf of everyone here saying thank you. This was just so informative, and
you're welcome.
I appreciate your time. And if you want to see this again, it will be in our Riveter recording and resources group. And I will
And hey,
share,
Madeline,
yeah,
really quick, I just
yeah,
dropped in the chat, guys, the gift code. So $5 gift code for everyone who is a part of this session today, $5 off any products. And it's gift code 5. That is it. And this will last, if you're watching the replay, for 1 week. Okay,
amazing. Perfect. And I'll write that again in the event post. Thank
perfect.
you so much, Catherine. As always,
You're
this was
so
such a
welcome.
joy. We're gonna have to do this again.
Of
You're
course.
amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Perfect. All right, take care, everyone.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.